All right, let's jump in. Let's see, where do we leave off yesterday? Still in Genesis. 2 weeks in, and I'm still in Genesis. And let's see. Nope, that's Exodus. We got the birth of Isaac covered. We have Abraham's faith tested. That's where I started yesterday. The burial of Sarah, and right after that, Isaac found a wife. Okay, we covered that. I believe. Yep, I think I'm going to pick up here at chapter 25. Chapter 25. I can barely hear you, Renee says. Oh, let me turn that up like that. Let me check my not my speakers, my headphones. Hello? Testing, testing. See, now I can hear myself pretty well. Let me go into OBS because maybe my default microphone is not set. I got my headphones on right now and it sounds really, really loud. So maybe maybe it's coming in through the laptop. No, it says Focusrite, USB audio. Okay. Do I need to turn it up? I'm not sure. Hello, Life of Key. Life of Key, can you hear me clearly or does it sound pretty quiet? Brene was telling me that she can barely hear me, and I've got my settings like all the way up. Let me make some adjustments, but I do have it all the way up. Not sure why guys are not able to hear me. I hear you really good, Priscilla Hubbard says. Good morning. Yep, it's better. Okay, so whatever I adjusted, I'm going to leave it like that. But I'm telling you, with these headphones on, I am blasting my ears out. I probably still do need to get a little bit closer to the microphone, though. Thank you so much for my 7 current viewers. Let me get just a few more likes on there to boost up the live stream, and I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to be going for about 45 minutes, and then I got to head out to take my daughter to school, so that's why I've been trying to get on here right about 7 a.m. or a little bit before, but housekeeping always takes a little bit longer than I expect. So thank you for all who are able to join me today. All right, let's see. Let me do a recap of yesterday. The recap of yesterday, I didn't read too many chapters, but there was the birth of Isaac in chapter 21. So Abraham and Sarah were really, really, really old, and they never had their first child. I will Oops, I can hear you right now. I can hear you. I can hear you. I hear you loud and clear. Thank you. All right. Let's see. We got the birth of Isaac, who was promised to Sarah and Abraham. They were very, very old, had never had their first children before, and it was kind of hard to believe that they would be blessed with a child, but they were. Let's see, we had Abraham's faith tested. If those of you don't know, you can listen to yesterday or the day before. That's when Abraham had to go up to the mountain because God told him, "Hey, this is your only son, your beloved son, and I want you to sacrifice him for me." And Abraham was faithful. He went up to the mountain. He was just about to sacrifice his only child that he had in his old age. But the angel of the Lord came down and said, "No, your faith was tested. You are truly loyal to the Lord." And of course, that is like a foreshadowing of the sacrifice that Jesus Christ made for us. So this is Old Testament stuff, but it's kind of letting us know ahead of time what's going to be happening in the New Testament. Then there was the burial of Sarah, which is Isaac's mom, looking for a wife for Isaac. And yeah, now we're up to chapter 25. I smashed the like for sure. Thank you so much. I'm probably not going to be looking at the chat too much, but I will try to pop my head over there every couple of chapters. Okay, we got the death of Abraham. Abraham married another wife whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, I will be giving commentary and questions. I'm not just reading the Bible. I'm reading it and trying to understand. I got a lot of questions. First of all, we know that at this point, Abraham is extremely old. He's like 100 plus years old. And he, has a new wife. That's a lot of kids. Isn't that a lot of kids? Abraham married another wife whose name was Keturah. She gave birth to Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. That's 6 kids right after Isaac. Wow, he was still quite active. Didn't need any, what's the name of the little blue pill? You guys know what I'm talking about. Jokshan was the father of Sheba. and Dedan. Dedan's descendants were the Ashurites, the Letushites, and the Leomites. Midian's sons were Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Abida, and Eldah. These were all descendants of Abraham through Keturah. Abraham gave everything he owned to his son Isaac, but before he died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off to a land in the east away from Isaac. Abraham lived for 175 years, and he died at a ripe old age, having lived a long and satisfying life. He breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. His sons Isaac and Ishmael. Now remember, Ishmael is the actual first son that he had because he was impatient. He really didn't believe God was going to give him a son in his old age. And Sarah was infertile at that time. So she said, okay, take my handmaiden, take her and have a son through her. So Ishmael is the first, but Isaac was the promised son. So that's why Isaac is getting all the goodies. Abraham lived for 175 years, and he died at a ripe old age. Having lived a long and satisfying life, he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre. And a couple chapters ago, he was making an agreement with King Abimelech. Was it King Abimelech? That he finally bought a burial plot for the family, and that's where he ended up being buried. This was the field Abraham had. Oh, that's what I just said. I'm giving you guys a recap, but I didn't realize that's what it was going to say in the scripture. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite. This was the field Abraham had purchased from the Hittites and where he had buried his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who settled near Bir Lahai Roi in the Negev. And we're still in chapter 25, talking about Ishmael's descendants. Let me check the chat room real quick. Yes, a lot of kids. Yeah, it's a lot of kids, right? The Bible says, be fruitful and multiply. Yep, that was they said that twice early in a couple more chapters. You guys hit the like button. Thank you. Thank you, moderator. Okay, Ishmael's descendants. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the firstborn son, not the promise, but the firstborn. This is the account of the family of Ishmael, the son of Abraham through Hagar, Sarah's Egyptian servant. Oh, I didn't know she was Egyptian. See, that's the first time they mentioned it. They just said she was a handmaiden. Here is a list by their names and clans of Ishmael's descendants. The oldest was Nebaioth, followed by Kedar, Adbil, Mibsam, Mishma, Duma, Massa, Hadad, Tamor, Jetur, Napish, and Kedema. These 12 sons of Ishmael became the founders of the 12 tribes named after them. I didn't know that. That's where they came from. Listed according to the places that they settled and camped. Now, here's something interesting. I found this out in a couple of chapters ago, that every time these people are having families, they're like moving out and dispersing. They're not staying in the same area. They're having all these kids, and then one child is going over here, another child is going over here. It's like they're spreading out into their own lands. Just find that interesting. Let's see. Ishmael lived for 137 years. Then he breathed his last and joined his ancestors in death. Ishmael's descendants occupied the region of Havilah to Shur, which is east of Egypt in the direction of Ashur. There they lived in open hostility toward all their relatives. And if y'all remember, when Hagar was pregnant with Ishmael, God said, hey, your child is going to grow up being rough and tumble, and he will live in open hostility, with his kinfolk. Not really sure why, but that was already talked about earlier. Now we're going to talk about the births of Esau and Jacob. This is the account of the family of Isaac, the son of Abraham. When Isaac was 40 years old, he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean from Padan Aram, and the sister of Laban and Aramean. Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. Interesting. Same thing with his mom. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. Why is this happening to me? She asked. And the Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve the younger son. And when the time came to give birth, Rebecca discovered that she did indeed have twins. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born with a hand grasping Esau's heel. So they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. Now we're under the heading still in chapter 25. It says Esau sells his birthright. Check in with you guys real quick. Okay. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. Esau. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game that Esau brought home. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Mama's boy. One day when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau arrived home from the wilderness exhausted and hungry. Esau said to Jacob, "I'm starved. Give me some of that red stew." This is how Esau got his other name, Edom, which means red. "All right," Jacob replied, "but trade me your rights as the firstborn son." "Look, I'm dying of starvation," said Esau. "What good is my birthright to me now?" But Jacob said, "First, you must swear that your birthright is mine." So Esau swore an oath, thereby selling all his rights as the firstborn to his brother Jacob. Let me stop real quick. Who in their right mind is that doggone hungry that they sell their birthright? Usually a birthright means you get all the wealth of your father, of your parents, right? You get all the land, you get the say-so, you're in charge, you're the leader, you're the head. Who in their right mind is that hungry? But again, Esau is the hunter. He's good at going out and catching the game. Esau, the homebody, he's good at preparing it, and he probably has some other qualities too. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. And this is for some beans at that. Okay. Jacob gave Esau some bread and lentil stew. Esau ate the meal, then got up and left. He showed contempt for his rights as the firstborn. Oh, so he really didn't want all that too, because what do they say? With great power comes great responsibility. So even though he probably had a lot of goodies coming toward him as the firstborn, as the eldest, there's probably a lot of like rights, passages of rights and responsibilities. He was like, man, I don't want to do all that. So for him, I guess it was an even exchange. But still, he's giving up a lot for some stew. Now we finally get to chapter 26. Isaac deceives Abimelech. A severe famine now struck the land, as had happened before in Abraham's time. Now, a couple chapters ago, Abraham went to King Abimelech, and there was a little deception there too. Looks like it's going to happen again. A severe famine now struck the land, as had happened before in Abraham's time. So Isaac moved to Gerar, where Abimelech, king of the Philistines, lived. The Lord appeared to Isaac and said, "Do not go down to Egypt, but do as I tell you. Live here as a foreigner in the land, and I will be with you and bless you. I hereby confirm that I will give you these lands to you and your descendants, just as I solemnly promised Abraham your father. I will cause your descendants to become as numerous as the stars in the sky, and I will give them all these lands, and through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed. I will do this because Abraham listened to me and obeyed all my requirements, commands, decrees, and instructions." So Isaac stayed in Gerar. Abraham did have his shortcomings, but he was pretty faithful. He was obedient and faithful, and that can be the hardest of all. Not so much as being perfect and upright and righteous, but just being obedient, You don't have to do things perfectly, but being obedient. Don't you wish your kids were obedient? Man, I wish my kids were obedient. Don't have to do it right all the time. Just do it. Okay, I'm getting off track. Let's see. When the men who lived there in Gerar, remember he said stay there in Gerar. When the men who lived there asked Isaac about his wife Rebekah, he said, "She's my sister." He was afraid to say she's my wife. He thought, they will kill me to get to her because she's so beautiful. Same thing with Abraham and Sarah. Same exact thing. But sometime later, Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out his window and saw Isaac caressing Rebekah. Ooh, getting a little close. He's like, I've never seen anybody hold their sister like that. Immediately, Abimelech called for Isaac and exclaimed, "She is obviously your wife. Why did you say she's my sister?" "Because I was afraid someone would kill me to get her from me," Isaac replied. "How could you do this to us?" Abimelech exclaimed. "One of my people might easily have taken your wife and slept with her, and you would have made us guilty of a great sin." Then Abimelech issued a public proclamation. "Anyone who touches this man or his wife will be put to death." So he's like, look, and here's another thing that I was reading and understanding in the previous chapter. Same thing that happened with Abraham and Sarah. When Sarah was almost taken sexually by somebody else's wife, the Lord spoke to him and said, "You're a dead man if you sleep with her." Because remember, there was supposed to be a promise. Sarah, Abraham, you guys will have a child that will be the descendant of great nations. So she had never had a child before. If you go sleep with this man, your firstborn child, you're messing up the whole bloodline. And so it was very, very important for these wives and for these husbands and wives to stay together and not fool around, because God had a plan. And now I am off of my page. Here we go. Conflict over water rights, still in chapter 26. When Isaac planted his crops that year, he harvested 100 times more grain than he planted, for the Lord blessed him. He became a very rich man, and his wealth continued to grow. He acquired so many flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and servants that the Philistines became jealous of him. So the Philistines filled up all of Isaac's wells with dirt. Dang, that's how cold. These were the wells that had been dug by the servants of his father Abraham. Finally, Abimelech ordered Isaac to leave the country. "Go somewhere else," he said, "for you've become too powerful for us." So Isaac moved away to the Gerar Valley, where he set up their tents and settled down. He reopened the wells his father had dug, which the Philistines had filled in after Abraham's death. Isaac also restored the names Abraham had given them. I can't remember the names, but yes, when at least one of the wells is when Hagar, when she got kicked out, Sarah was like, "I'm not having it." She's got the firstborn child, but I'm your wife, and so she's teasing our little boy, get her out, kick her out, and they had to, basically put her in exile, and she cried out in the wilderness, and there was an angel showed her a well that was there, and they named it Beersheba. I don't remember the name of it, but they named these wells. I'm not sure why. Isaac's servants also dug in the Gerar Valley and discovered a well of fresh water, but then the shepherds came from Gerar and claimed the spring. "This is our water," they said, and they argued over it with Isaac's herdsmen. So Isaac named the well Esek, which means argument. Isaac's men then dug another well, but again, there was a dispute over it. So Isaac named it Sitnah, which means hostility. Abandoning that one, Isaac moved on and dug another well. This time there was no dispute over it, so Isaac named the place Rehoboth, which means open space. For he said, "At last the Lord has created enough space for us to prosper in this land." From there, Isaac moved to Beersheba, where the Lord appeared to him on the night of his arrival. "I am the God of your father Abraham," he said. "Do not be afraid, for I am with you and I will bless you. I will multiply your descendants and they will become a great nation. I will do this because of my promise to Abraham, my servant." Then Isaac built an altar there and worshipped the Lord. He set up his camp at that place, and his servants dug another well. Now moving on to Isaac's covenant with Abimelech. Checking in with the chat, make sure I don't miss anybody. And for anybody who's in and haven't said hello yet, say hello, hit the like button. Appreciate it very much. And if you got questions, I don't necessarily have answers, but if you have questions, put them in the chat. I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. I've got nothing but questions since I'm starting to read, and I'll mention it again. This is the New Believer's Bible Compact. It's written in plain English, so it actually reads like an actual storyline that I can understand. And now that I'm understanding it, I'm actually able to use my critical thinking skills and ask, now that I'm understanding, why did this happen? Why did that happen? Why was this said? There is a link in one of the other lives. I'll make sure I update it on this one when I'm done. But this is a very good book, and let me do a quick screen share over to the guide that I'm using for those of you who may not know. This is a woman's guide. This is a woman's guide to reading the Bible in a year. It is on my New Year's resolution. I want to get through this within the year. Well, by the end of the year. Diane Storts, that link is also, I probably should have put it in this one too, but this link is also on the other one, which I could probably copy at some point. And we are in week 2, according to the table of contents, covering faithfulness and deceit. And today is the 9th. So at some point, by the end of this week, I would like to get through to 42. And then come week 3, we're going to move on to week 3 and actually keep up with this particular guide. So checkpoints: the only land Abraham owned, birthrights and blessings, a ladder to heaven, a special 10th, and dizzying dreams. So just so you guys know where I am, at what pace that I'm going to be reading at. All right, jumping back into Isaac's covenant with Abimelech. Check the time too. One day, King Abimelech came from Gerar with his advisor Ahuzah and also Phicol, his army commander. "Why have you come here?" Isaac asked. "You obviously hate me since you kicked me off your land." They replied, "We can plainly see that the Lord is with you, so we want to enter into a sworn treaty with you. Let's make a covenant. Swear that you will not harm us just as we have never troubled you." "We have always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you." Now they're saying what they wish would have happened, not what actually happened. But they say there's power in the tongue, right? So speak it into existence. So that's what they're saying. They're saying, hey, let's agree that this is how things are between us. "Let us make a covenant, swear that you will not harm us, just as we have never troubled you. We've always treated you well, and we sent you away from us in peace. And now look how the Lord has blessed you." Because here's the thing, they know that the Lord has blessed him, and they're like, maybe if we treat him well, we can get some of that blessing. So Isaac prepared a covenant feast to celebrate the treaty, and they ate and drank together. Early the next morning, they each took a solemn oath not to interfere with each other. Then Isaac sent them home again, and they left him in peace. That very day, Isaac's servant came and told him about a new well they had dug. "We've found water," they exclaimed. So Isaac named the well Sheba, which means oath. And to this day, that town that grew up there is called Beer Sheba, which means well of the oath. At the age of 40, Esau married 2 Hittite wives, Judith, the daughter of Beeri, and Basemath, the daughter of Elon. But Esau's wives made life miserable for Isaac and Rebekah. Well, that would be interesting episode on Sister Wives, wouldn't it? Let me jump back over to the stream, make sure I don't miss anything. All right, good. So now Isaac has 3 wives, Rebekah, Judith, and Basemath. Chapter 27, Jacob steals Esau's blessing. Now remember, they were twins in the womb, and Jacob is the one that held the heel of his twin brother Esau. One day when Isaac was old and turning blind, he called for Esau. Isaac is the dad. Remember the one that was almost sacrificed on the mountain? One day Isaac was old and turning blind. He called for Esau, his older son, and said, "My son." "Yes, father," Esau replied. "I'm an old man now, Isaac, and I don't know when I may die. Take your bow and a quiver full of arrows and go out into the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare my favorite dish and bring it here for me to eat. Then I will pronounce the blessing that belongs to you, my firstborn son, before I die." But Rebekah overheard what Isaac had said to his son Esau. So when Esau left to hunt for the wild game, she said to her son Jacob, remember the mama's boy? She said to her son Jacob, "Listen, I overheard your father say to Esau, 'Bring me some wild game and prepare me a delicious meal. Then I will bless you in the Lord's presence before I die. Now, my son, listen to me. Do exactly as I tell you. Go out to the flocks and bring me 2 fine young goats. I'll use them to prepare your father's favorite dish. Then take the food to your father so he can eat it and bless you before he dies." "But look," Jacob replied to Rebekah, "my brother Esau is a hairy man, and my skin is smooth. What if my father touches me? He'll see that I'm trying to trick him, and then he'll curse me instead of blessing me." But his mother replied, "Then let the curse fall on me, son. Just do what I tell you. Go out and get the goats for me." So Jacob went out and got the young goats for his mother. Rebekah took them and prepared a delicious meal, just the way Isaac liked it. Then she took Esau's favorite clothes, which were in the house, and gave them to her younger son Jacob. She covered his arms and the smooth part of his neck with the skin of the young goats. Then she gave Jacob the delicious meal, including freshly baked bread. So Jacob took the food to his father. "My father," he said. "Yes, my son," Isaac answered. "Who are you, Esau or Jacob?" Jacob replied, "It's Esau, your firstborn son. I've done as you told me. Here's the wild game. Now, sit up and eat it so you can give me your blessing." Isaac asked, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord, your God, put it in my path," Jacob replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come closer so I can touch you and make sure that you really are Esau." So Jacob went closer to his father, and Isaac touched him. "The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's," Isaac said. But he did not recognize Jacob because Jacob's hands felt hairy, just like Esau's. So Isaac prepared to bless Jacob. "But are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "Yes, I am," Jacob replied. Then Isaac said, "Now, my son, bring me the wild game. Let me eat it, and I will give you my blessing." So Jacob took the food to his father, and Isaac ate it. He also drank the wine that Jacob served him. Then Isaac said to me, "Jacob, please, come a little closer and kiss me, my son." So Jacob went over and kissed him, and when Isaac caught the smell of the clothes, he was finally convinced, and he blessed his son. He said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of the outdoors, which the Lord has blessed. From the dew of the heaven and the richness of the earth, may God always give you abundant harvests of grain and bountiful new wine. Many nations become your servants, and may they bow down to you. May you be the master over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. All who curse you will be cursed, and all who bless you will be blessed." As soon as Isaac had finished the blessing Jacob, and almost before Jacob had left his father, Esau returned from his hut. Esau prepared a delicious meal and brought it to his father. Then he said, "Sit up, father, and eat my wild game so that you can give me your blessing." But Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" Esau replied, "It's your son, your firstborn son, Esau." Isaac began to tremble uncontrollably and said, "Then who just served me the wild game? I've already eaten it, and I blessed him just before you came, and yes, that blessing must stand." When Esau heard his father's word, he let out a loud and bitter cry. "Oh, my father, what about me? Bless me too," he begged. But Isaac said, "Your brother was here, and he tricked me. He has taken away your blessing." Esau exclaimed, "No wonder his name is Jacob, for now he has cheated me twice." Jacob means trickster or deceiver. "First he took my rights as the firstborn, and now he is stealing my blessing. Oh, haven't you saved even one blessing for me?" Isaac said to Esau, "I have made Jacob your master, and have declared that all his brothers will be his servants. I've guaranteed him an abundance of grain and wine. What is left for me to give to you, my son?" Esau pleaded, "But do you have only one blessing?" "Oh, my father, bless me too." Then Esau broke down and wept. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, "You will always live from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck." I'm going to stop right there, and I'm going to make some commentary. Yes, his firstborn son and his favorite son was Esau. Did he have that much contempt for the mama's boy Jacob that he didn't leave anything left over? I mean, I know back in that day and time, things weren't necessarily 50-50. The firstborn pretty much got everything, but he didn't think that Jacob would need anything. Or I don't understand it. The same thing that Esau said, "My father, haven't you even left me one blessing?" Whatever would have been left over for Jacob, he could have given to Esau. But apparently, in his last dying breath, he blessed the son, his favorite son, so that he can get everything. That's out cold. That is out cold. Wow. Okay, now we're going to go on to Jacob flees to Padam Aram. From that time on, Esau hated Jacob because their father had given Jacob the blessing. And Esau began to scheme. I will soon be mourning my father's death. Then I will kill my brother Jacob. But Rebekah heard about Esau's plan. So she sent for Jacob and told him, listen, Esau is consoling himself by plotting to kill you. So listen carefully, my son, get ready and flee to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay there with him until your brother cools off. When he calms down and forgets what you've done to him, I will send you back. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I'm sick and tired of these local Hittite women. I would rather die than see Jacob marry one of them. So she's kind of like making it seem like, oh, I got to send Jacob away because, I don't want him marrying one of these women. When really she was just trying to save his hide. Chapter 28. So Isaac called for Jacob, blessed him, and said, you must not marry any of these, because he's still alive. He's on his deathbed, but he's like, you must not marry any of these Canaanite women. Instead, go at once to Padan Aram, to the house of your grandfather Bethuel, and marry one of your uncle Laban's daughter. May God Almighty bless you and give you many children, and may your descendants multiply and become many nations. May God pass on to you and your descendants the blessings he promised to Abraham. May you own this land where you are now living as a foreigner, for God gave this land to Abraham. So Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Padan Aram to stay with his uncle Laban, his mother's brother, the son of Bethuel, the Aramean. Esau knew that his father Isaac had blessed Jacob and sent him to Padan Aram to find a wife, and that he had warned Jacob, you must not marry a Canaanite woman. He also knew that Jacob had obeyed his parents and gone to Padan Aram. It was now very clear to Esau that his father did not like the local Canaanite women. So Esau visited his uncle Ishmael's family and married one of Ishmael's daughters, in addition to the wives he already had. His new wife's name was Mahalath. She was the sister of Nebaioth, the daughter of Ishmael, Abraham's son. Now we're on to Jacob's dream at Bethel, and we're going to finish up with chapter 28 in just a moment. Jacob's dream at Bethel. Meanwhile, Jacob left Beersheba and traveled toward Haran. At sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from earth up to heaven, and he saw the angel of God going up and down the stairway. Quick question. Y'all remember that movie Jacob's Ladder? Is that the same type of paraphrase, or is that the same type of thing that we're talking about here? Because they say stair, but when they say stair, do they mean stair, ladder, or just a way to reach up to? I'm just curious about that. At the top of the stairway stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I am giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be as numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and the east, to the north and the south, and all the families of the earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I have promised you. Then Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Surely the Lord is in this place. I wasn't even aware of it. But he was also afraid and said, What an awesome place this is. It is none other than the house of God, the very gateway to heaven. The next morning, Jacob got up very early. He took the stone he had rested his head against, and he set it upright as a memorial pillar. Then he poured olive oil over it. He named that place Bethel, which means house of God, although it was previously called Luz. Then Jacob made his vow. If God will indeed be with me and protect me on this journey, and if he will provide me with food and clothing, and if I return safely to my father's home, then the Lord will certainly be my God. And this memorial pillar I have set up will become a place for worshiping God, and I will present to God 1/10 of everything he gives me. And that seems to be the first indication of giving a portion of your blessings, of your possessions, of everything that you have back to God. What do you guys think about that reading? Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Make sure you leave them in the chat. I'm actually wrapping up. I'm wrapping it up. I'm wrapping up at this moment. So for anybody on the replay, make sure you leave any comments, questions, or concerns in the comments section. Tomorrow we'll be picking up at chapter 29, where Jacob finally arrives at Padan Aram, which is the place that he's running away to after he has stolen his brother Esau's blessings from his dying father. Thank you so much for all who took the time to join me in today's live stream. It means so much to me. How much of the Bible have you read? What is your favorite passage of the Bible? What questions do you have about the Bible? I don't have the answers, but I'm open to discussion. You can leave those in the comment section, or you can wait until tomorrow morning, where I will be coming back on and finishing this up, as this is my resolution this year, where I resolve to read the Bible every day. Thank you so much. You all have a great Thursday. Entrepreneur Drive 40, Entrepreneur Drive. Entrepreneur Drive 40, Entrepreneur Drive. Entrepreneur Drive 40, Entrepreneur Drive. Thanks for watching, share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow me on social media.